Hey girls, I just want to take about 5 minutes to give you some feedback on just kind of a general discussion from reading all of the rough drafts over the weekend. I want to help you write with more clarity, make some things a little bit less fuzzy, and to give you a little bit more structure on your introductions and your conclusions. So, first thing you must avoid, and most of y'all are good at this, some of you need to go back and check, is that you need to avoid contractions. So contractions are for speech. They are not for writing. They're meant to get words out of your mouth faster, but when you write, especially in a formal essay like what you were turning in, it is not appropriate to use contractions. Now, contractions are different from possessives. So if you say something like Houston's troops, that means Houston governs and gives orders to the troops. They're his troops. That is not the same as saying Houston's going to visit Lamar. Okay, that's a contraction because it means Houston is going to visit Lamar. So, no contractions. Secondly, I want you to avoid I statements. Things like I feel, I think, I believe. All of these statements are great, again, for speech, but when you are writing, I know that you think, feel, and believe it because you are the one writing it. Okay, you are the author. So I know already that it is your beliefs and thoughts that are being backed up by the facts that you're presenting. And 95% of the time, if you just look at the sentence, you can probably just delete those two words and the sentence will be fine on its own. Third thing, I want you to avoid unworthy adjectives. So unworthy adjectives are adjectives that are vague and not powerful. I have 4 examples here: good, bad, sad, and angry. Okay, good, bad, and sad all kind of have the same effect on a sentence. So if I say something like, Pam is a good student, okay, you don't know what I mean by a good student. I could mean that she's a good listener in class. I could mean that she is great at studying for tests. I could mean that she's a good writer. I could mean that she is helpful in the classroom. I could mean that she overall is just an upstanding kid. You don't know what I mean by Pam is a good student. Good is an ineffective and unworthy adjective because it is not specific enough. So if you use these, I want you to go back into your paper and ask yourself exactly what you were trying to say. Okay, sometimes, actually most of the time, it is not as simple as switching out the adjective with another. Sometimes you need to change it out with a phrase or paint another kind of image to make more of an impact. It'll also make you look like a more intelligent writer if you avoid these words altogether. So basically, 3-letter adjectives are always a no-no. Okay, good and angry, you need to really think about what kind of image you're trying to project in your writing and change things up. Lastly, I would say good and bad are my least favorite words, but very sometimes is my number 1 least favorite word. Very is an ineffective adverb. Most of the time when people use it, they don't realize that putting the word very in front of something, so Pam is a very effective speaker, okay, if you say that she is very effective, does it make her more effective because you put the word very in front of it? So if I say Pam is an effective speaker, okay, that means she's good at public speaking. She can sway her audience. If I say she's a very effective speaker, does that mean that she sways her audience more strongly? Does that mean that she, is better at talking loudly? It really doesn't add a lot to your sentence. Plus, when you use the word very, people tend to use the word very a lot. So when someone is reading through your paragraphs in your essay, those varies pop out like crazy, and then it just seems like you're going, Sam Houston was very talented at economic policy. He was very happy to charge customs duty. He was very effective at making sure he decreased the debt. He was very, that's what starts happening, and they really stick out, but the point you're trying to make doesn't. So most sentences, again, just like with the I feel statements up on the top, or the I statements, okay, they can just be eliminated from the sentence and the sentence will sound way better without it. Things to remember, okay? Use transition words like first, second, also, then, however, therefore. things like that. A lot of y'all have really great points, but you just kind of plow through them all with no organization. Transition words give you the organization that you need. Okay, and lastly, on the things to remember, please, please, please make sure you answer this question in your conclusion statement. A lot of y'all have good conclusion statements, but they could be better. Make sure you tie in why you think they were a more effective president with some kind of reasoning based on the information that's in your paragraph. So now, introductions and conclusions. It seems like everybody needs a little bit of help with these. So first, your introduction needs to have some kind of a hook. Okay, in English class, they talk about a hook, an interesting fact, something that draws the reader in. Okay, what I usually tell students whenever they're writing an essay or a paper is that you have to imagine you are writing to a stupid person that has never seen the information that you are about to present to them. So you need to write this as if I, the reader of your essay, has never ever learned, taught, seen, or heard, or lived in Texas. So you need to, if you can't think of something interesting to start off with, like a question or a thought, okay, you need to start with background information. We just finished a war. We just broke off from our original home country of Mexico. Okay? Imagine the reader doesn't know that. If you're just going to go, oh, Houston and Lamar govern Texas in different ways. Well, they don't know who Houston and Lamar are. That could be your pet cat and dog. That could be your grandma and grandpa. That could be, anything. You need to give it some structure. So start off with 2 to 3 sentences of background information. Something talking about how we just fought or just overcame, governmental oppression, where they said we'd have one type of government, but we ended up with another, and we fought for our independence bravely. We lost a lot of men, but now we realized we don't have leadership. And you're going to discuss the first 2 leaders of our government and how effective they were. So that leads me into present Houston and Lamar. So after you give the background information about what just happened in Texas, you need to then say, I'm going to talk about Sam Houston and Maribel Lamar. Then you need to have your thesis statement as your last sentence. You need to make sure you keep it broad. You cannot have a thesis statement that says Sam Houston was a more effective president. Because if that is your thesis statement, the only thing you can talk about in your paper is Sam Houston. You didn't leave any room to talk about Lamar. So you need to have something like Sam Houston and Lamar took very different approaches to governing Texas. Sam Houston and Lamar were 2 completely different men and had different ideas about what Texas should be. Okay? Something along those lines that says, I'm talking about these 2 guys, and I'm going to compare how they governed. And now your conclusion paragraph. So this is not the conclusion to your conclusion sentence to your body paragraphs. This is the conclusion paragraph, last paragraph of your essay. Okay, you are going to tell the reader what you think. So you might be sitting there going, dude, I did that after every single body paragraph. Can't they just tell? The answer is no. Okay, you just asked the reader to go through 3 body paragraphs where after each paragraph you told them who you thought was better. Okay, but now you're having to sit back and look at it as a whole. So you need to say, this president is a better president, or was a more effective president for Texas, okay, because he was able to do this, and this was good for Texas, and he was able to do this thing, and it was also really good for Texas, and he was able to do this thing, okay? You don't have to have 3 things, but you need to say, this guy was more effective, here is what I said in my paragraphs, which is why this guy was more beneficial to Texas. Okay? Again, there are phrases you should avoid. If any of you write in conclusion, as you can see, in the end, or any of these other little catchy conclusion paragraph phrases, okay, you will lose points. This is the same thing as the I statements from the previous slide. Okay? They take away from your writing. They are meant for speech making. They are not meant for formal writing. Okay? I hope you found this helpful. And I took a little bit more than 5 minutes. I apologize. But the sub should be handing you back your rough drafts. You are going to peer edit first, and then you're going to sit down with your peer edited version and my feedback version and finish up your essay. I hope you guys have a great day, and if I don't see you, a good Thanksgiving.